when the debacle of my father's passing hit the family, and we lost all our businesses, and my family thought that it would be best if I stayed in America because of the intensity of the press and drama surrounding my father's death in England. So I stayed, and Epstein said, well, you can keep helping me, you can help me find that house, and we can decorate the house, and it gave me something to do.
Were you in a romantic relationship with her at this point, or just friends?
Just friends.
And while we're just...
with her.
With respect to your father, there have been multiple...
Well, I guess we knew she was bisexual.
Whether he worked for any intelligence agency. Do you have any knowledge about that?
I think, well, certainly my father had a background in intelligence because he was, I believe he did during the Second World War. He was a British intelligence officer. I think that my sort of belief is that once you've been an intelligence officer, you're kind of, always, it doesn't mean that you're formally employed. So I don't think
I would have thought that they have already covered this type of stuff before.
Employed by any agency, but when you are a very significant businessman and politician, as my father was, you meet with people all over time, and you, I guess, trade business or ideas. I think that would fall under that definition. That's how I would think it. Now, he certainly, I have no formal knowledge of anything specifically that he did in that thing, but if you're asking me if I thought that he did help people, the answer would be yes, I do.
Did your father and Mr. Epstein have a business relationship over the years? I know we're maybe jumping around a little bit.
They never met. So
as far as you know, they never even met.
No,
So you know they never met.
I know they never met.
Well, how do you know they never met?
Just categorically know they never met. Well, because after in 1991, before my father died, he asked me if I'd met anybody interesting or whatever, because I was still...
That don't make sense.
...trying not to be sucked back into the family business. And I told him that I had met Mr. Epstein, and the reason why I shared that I'd met Mr. Epstein because I believed at that time that Epstein worked for Bear Stearns, and Bear Stearns was one of our banks. And I knew that my father was friendly with both Jimmy Kane and with Ace Greenberg. So my dad was actually in New York, I think. I don't think I had this conversation on the phone, but I honestly, we're talking 30 years ago, so I'm not sure. But maybe I told him this verbatim because I know that what my dad did, whether I saw it or whether he did it and told me later, I don't remember. But he called both Jimmy Kane and Ace Greenberg to ask what sort of guy he was and was he even allowed to, because,
they never met.
He didn't even know who he was.
They knew some of the same people, it sounds like, or certainly the Bear Stearns connection was something that you knew that they had.
No, well, he never had a connection with Epstein. He had a connection with the bank. I mean, Epstein, I'd never heard of him or knew of him before, and I certainly, if my dad had known him, right, when I said this is who he was, he didn't know who he was. So he rang Ace and he rang Jimmy to ask.
Now, this man had 50 million, well, I'm exaggerating, visas, passports, all of this type of stuff in different names. I believe her dad did know him. I think she has said it before, but could he have known him under a different name? I mean, I don't know, but I'm not believing him.
Asked if it was okay that I even knew him, and I just want to explain briefly why my father would even do such a thing.
She's pausing.
I've had some interesting things that have happened in my life, And one of them was to be found on an IRA kidnap and murder list. And so after that,
What did she say?
well, there were other
Kidnap.
related, I don't know,
Hold on.
with the bank. I mean, Epstein, I'd never heard of him or knew of him before, and I certainly, if my dad had known him, right, when I said this is who he was, he didn't know who he was. So he rang Ace and he rang Jimmy to ask if it was okay that I even knew him. And I just want to explain briefly why my father would even do such a thing. I've had some interesting things that have happened in my life, and one of them was to be found on an IRA kidnap and murder list.
So she was on a list. So she said that she found out that she was on a IRA. Hold on.
Why my father would even do
An
such
IRA kidnap and murder list. Okay, go ahead. Thank you for the floating heart.
I've had some interesting things that have happened in my life, and one of them was to be found on an IRA kidnap and murder list. And so after that happened, well, there were other related, I'm not going to bore you with all the horrible things in that vein, but if you want the details, of course, I can. But after that happened, my father wanted to put a lot of protection on this, and I declined on the grounds that that would be a very life-restricting event. You're all in law enforcement, I know you understand this. And so he had told me that I would be taking my life in my own hands or whatever. And so I think after that event and several others where I had stalkers and that one has, he was always quite protective of me. And so if I met somebody, he would try and verify that they weren't going to do anything hideous. And so in case you thought it was weird that he would call Jimmy and Ace, you may think it is, but from my perspective, he was just because he was concerned. I was in America alone, and he had an opportunity to verify who this person was. And so I don't know if I was in the room with him, I don't know, but I know that at some point my father told me, he's fine, you can see him.
Yeah.
He's safe.
Okay.
Well, okay.
So we might come back and touch a little bit more on that at some point, but
yeah.
I went down a rabbit hole for a minute.
That's all right, I just wanted to...
No, that's helpful, thank you. So, okay, so you're now in the 90s and you're friends with Mr. Epstein, your house, decorating the house or the apartment. What happened with your relationship again? I know we're talking about a 35-year time period or whatever, but to the extent you can kind of at a very high level talk about it.
So I think just full disclosure is the best way to go at this point.
Yeah.
So in 1992, I slept with one time. And I was like, oh, that's it. We're going to be dating. Because that's how I thought. And I kind of thought of myself in that moment, like, because I felt if you slept with someone with you, then dating them. That's the world I came from. But that really was, well, that's how I thought. But we didn't sleep together again for, I don't know, really a significant period of time. And when I think
years or?
I don't know if it's a year. That feels long, but maybe 9 months. I mean, a long time.
Okay.
I just want to go back. So I had found a house for him to rent in New York. as he had asked me. I'd been looking on it for my father, and I found one, which was a former Iranian embassy, I think it was. I think it belonged to the Iranians or the Iraqis. And I didn't know that he had any money, really, and it was like, I want to say it was $20,000 a month, which to me seemed like a fortune. And I said to her, I found this house, but I don't think you can afford it. It's ridiculous. Of course I can afford me renting it. And that house came with, it was a State Department house, because it was under sequestration or whatever it was. And I put it back together, but there were certain rules you couldn't paint because it had to go back when you gave it back to the country. So he had this house, and I had moved into a 10-foot by 10-foot apartment because all of our stuff had been either lost or frozen or whatever. So he came and was never found out, really. Because
It don't make no sense to me.
it felt very similar to this man, if that makes sense. Anyway, so, but I had no key to his house. I had no free access to his house. And in the entire time that he lived there, which was, I believe, until the beginning of 1996, I never slept a single night in the house. Ever. Not one.
So you said a minute ago that that you slept with him on one occasion, and at the time you remember thinking, that this meant you were in a relationship, but then it didn't. You really were not in that type of relationship.
Well,
Did that change over between 91 and 92 or whatever, and years forward?
So I did travel with him a lot.
Okay.
So I would go to his houses on the beach. He only had that
Y'all
house.
please hit the like button. Support the platform.
He had the house in Palm Beach, and he had a house in Ohio.
In what?
Ohio.
Okay.
And he had the house in Ohio because of his business relationship with Mr. Wexner. And he had
Wexner.
and I had to go and decorate and put that house together. When we traveled together, we stayed in the same bed, but not in the, but I didn't.
They slept in the same way.
Go ahead. It's okay. Talk. So you say, so when you travel with him to his houses in
And he had and I had to go and decorate and put that house together. When we traveled together, we stayed in the same
Bed.
but not in the, but I didn't.
They
Go
slept.
ahead. It's okay. Talk.
They slept in the same bed. Why she trying to act like she
So
wasn't
when you
fucking on
travel
his
with him
man?
to his houses in Palm Beach, Ohio, or even just traveling, if it was just traveling with him, you would stay in the same bed, so sleep in the same bed with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Epstein told me that he had a heart condition. Heart condition.
Heart condition. Okay.
Which meant that he didn't have intercourse a lot,
Oh, girl, bye.
which he didn't have, because I actually do have a medical condition, which precludes
Y'all hear her? He was an addict,
intercourse.
but
So what was your understanding? Okay.
that he didn't have sex a lot. But oh my god, okay.
Epstein told me that he had a heart condition.
He do got a heart condition.
Heart condition. Okay.
Which meant that he didn't have intercourse a lot, which suited me fine, because I actually do have a medical condition, which precludes me having a lot of intercourse.
So what was your understanding of his heart condition and why that prevented him from having intercourse regularly?
She lied.
I mean,
He wasn't into her.
he liked other forms of sexual activity.
Well, well, let's come back. We're gonna obviously spend a lot of time on the actual conduct he was accused of, so we'll come back to that. So, pick up where
fellas, does that mean he
where
just
you were
wasn't
talking
into
about
her
you
like
traveling
that?
around with him.
Cause he definitely likes
renting
screwing
the
babies.
Former Iranian house until around 96. That time, I believe you said that he was basically your life, like you were with him pretty regularly.
Well, no. So I never was with him regularly. That is one of those misnomers. I mean, at the beginning, I did see more of him, but I worked in his office. So I would go to the office and I would see him. And I would count in my head when I would see him, I would count that that'd be a day that I would see him. But I never ever stayed with him. I believe, certainly until 93 or 94, what I didn't know was that I think he was still with his actual husband, who was Eva Anderson, that became Eva Jubilee. They had been together, my understanding, I think about 10 years. I'm not sure, but that's what I think, 10 years. And I had understood from my girlfriend initially that they were together, and Epstein himself had told me that they were not together, but I don't think that was true. I know it's not true. So they were still together up until I think 94, when at some point in that period when Eva met Glenn Dubin and they got married. I think in 94, I don't remember when they got married. But her, she was...
So Epstein was married?
His best friend and his everything. He told me that he always wished that he had married her and had a child with her. And I know that she was family for his whole life. And I think even, I'm not sure this is true, but you guys will know if this is true or not. When he came back from Paris and you arrested him, I don't know if Eva was on the plane.
So was he married or not?
Either I read it in the discovery that I received, or I saw it somewhere. But even if she wasn't on the plane, there must have been some email communication where she was in Paris at the same time and going to fly back. One or the other. I don't know which one is the correct version of that. But so they were still obviously very close and remained throughout the entire time. She was so bad. And so I also know now, which I didn't know at the time, was that he saw lots of other women. And I know that now because I can see it.
Was he married? Did he marry or not? You confusing.
I can see from the emails.
So you know from the case
yes,
that what happened?
If I didn't know that I acted initially, I absolutely didn't.
So, okay, so just, we're going to spend time on everything we're talking about, but just to kind of close out.
I'm trying to go back.
Big picture, your relationship. So we're now on the...
She was family for his whole life. And I think even, I'm not sure this is true, but you guys will know. And Epstein himself had told me that they were not together, but I don't think that was true. I know it's not true. So they were still together up until I think 94, when at some point in that period when Eva met Glenn Dubin and they got married. I think in 94, I don't remember when they got married. But her, she was his best friend and his...
So the lady married Glenn Dubin.
And had a child with her. And I know that she was family for his whole life. And I think even, I'm not sure this is true, but you guys will know if this is true or not. When he came back from Paris and you arrested him, I don't know if Eva was on the plane. Now, I think that either I read it in the discovery that I received, or I saw it somewhere, but even if she wasn't on the plane, there must have been some email communication where she was in Paris at the same time and going to fly back. One or the other, I don't know which one is the correct version of that. But so they were still obviously very close and remained throughout the entire time. She was so bad. And so I also know now, which I didn't know at the time, was that he saw lots of other women. And I know that now because I can see it from the flight logs, and I know it now because I can see from the emails.
So you know from the case
Yes.
that what happened?
Yes, I didn't know.
that along.
Contemporaneously, I absolutely didn't.
So, okay, so just, and we're gonna spend time on everything you're talking about, but just to kind of close out big picture of your relationship. So we're now in the late 90s. Continue on with, again, staying high level to the extent you can about your relationship with him.
So my responsibilities increased with each acquisition that he had and each new project. So
Jane, she talking about herself and Epstein when they met.
After was
I guess
the ranch
she confusing me.
in Mexico.
Okay.
And so what he had tasked me with up until that, I think that was purchased in 94, if I'm right. So he had tasked me, one of the things that we did was visit, in my mind I say every state, but it would not be every state, but many states, to go look at real estate reports. And so I know we went to Montana, I know we went to Utah, and it was to go look at real estate, to be honest. And then I arranged for us to go to New Mexico, and he just loved New Mexico. And then I don't remember how the ranch happened. I don't remember that, now it's lost. And then he ended up buying the ranch, and I think, if I'm right, it came from the kings who may have been the governor. I bought the ranch, and then I had to deal with that. Dealing with that was extensive. I mean, the way that I thought of myself, or the way that I think is the best way to explain how I view my role, was as a general manager, because each property to me was like a hotel. So the ranch was very challenging, because not only that, but it had BLM land. So to maintain your BLM, you had to have cattle. And I love animals, and so the first thing, horses, and so I wanted it, if you're going to have a ranch, I like authenticity. So I don't think you should have a ranch. You're not going to have the things that make it special.
So will you?
Klaus, what's your issue? What's your issue, Klaus? Huh? What's your BS? Hey, are you a supporter of my platform? What's your BS? Klaus, speak up. I need to hear from you. I need to know what I need to do with you.
I don't remember how the ranch happened. I don't remember that, now it's lost. And then he ended up buying the ranch, and I think, if I'm right, it came from the kings who may have been the governor. I bought the ranch, and then
Let me help your ass out.
deal with that.
You ain't got nothing to say.
The way that I thought of myself, or the way that I think is the best way to explain how I view my role, was as a
Y'all say by the clause.
Because each property to me was like
The BS that.
So the ranch was very challenging, because not only that, but it had BLM land. So to maintain your BLM, you had to have cattle. And I love animals, and so the first thing, horses, and so I wanted it, if you're going to have a ranch, I like authenticity. So I don't think you should have a ranch. You're not going to have the things that make it special.
So were you paid by him along the way?
So
during this time?
I became salaried at some point. My memory is that I got paid $25,000 a year to begin with. That's my memory. I may be wrong. And then with each as it became obvious, because I kept thinking I was going to go home in England. And, but it,
Did you, and financially,
$25,000 a year.
The 25,000 or whatever amount you were paid, were you relying on that money to live and his generosity to live, or did you have your own money?
so there's a,
And again, I want to just make sure we're talking about like keeping it between like the late 90s, maybe I guess into a little of the 2000s.
I just want to hit something on the head right now. There's a tremendous amount of reporting that said that I had a trust fund. I have never had a trust at any time.
So how did you live? Did you live with I mean, 25,000 is not enough to live on.
No. So I had, during this period of time, the secret serious fraud squad had come to see me in relation to my father's passing, and to establish whether I had been involved in any way with his business or with any shenanigans. I've told the story many times, so I don't know if it's now somewhat hypocritical, but I'll tell you what.
I ain't never heard that, Liz.
Was I received a letter from them that said, go about my business and my memory. Maybe hypocritical. There was a PS that said, I used no rights cousin. I had nothing. I was never involved in any of his business, whatever, so I was free.
I don't believe that.
So, but obviously your father and your family had a lot of businesses. Is it because the money, whatever money or whatever equity was in the businesses, just stayed
That was her bone.
your other family members?
No.
$25,000
So
a
my father was
child.
never attached to money. He was born a peasant, a real one, dirt floor, no shoes, no clothes, some clothes, but not, sorry, I don't need to say, and nothing. And he was never into that. I mean, there were things that he had, his extravagances. He loved his boat and his plane. So obviously you need money for that, but there was nothing else. And there was not a single penny that came to any of us at any time, ever.
Okay, so when you're talking about your life with Mr. Epstein in the 90s, you're very different financially. You're very different financially positioned than he is. Meaning
Absolutely.
He's giving you money, he's paying for when you fly, he I assume pays for your flights.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I interrupted you when you were saying how you were functioning as general manager, you helped with the New Mexico ranch. So did your role with him continue like that for many years, or for how long?
So I continued in 2000. Well, by 1999, our relationship had foundered.
Why?
Well, two reasons. We were never sleeping together again, so we stopped having sexual relations in 1999. Not full sex, so to be clear. Didn't mean that we didn't still share a bedroom sometimes or whatever. He had another girlfriend.
He had what?
Other girlfriends. I definitively knew that it was over after 9/11, actually, because we were both from New York. And I don't know, were you in New York? 9/11's. And it was a scary time if you were in New York. You didn't know. I didn't know. Nobody knew what was going on. And he was in 71st Street, and I was in 65th Street, my house. And he wouldn't see me at all. Asked me, his mum, who I was very close to, was in the hospital at Bennett Hill, just asked me to look after her. And then I knew, as anyone did at that time, if you're not going to be there for someone in 9/11, you're never going to be there. So for me, that was the blind side. And he had another English girlfriend, actually, in 2000.
Are you, though, still on his, are you still being paid by him at this point?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead. So what at that point, when you say you realize kind of.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about I wanted to get married and have children. And Epstein had encouraged me to believe that would, I don't know about them, certainly by the late 90s anyway, the marriage part was never going to happen. I had believed that maybe in 96, 97, 98 maybe, but then I realized it wasn't that. But I did think that we might have a child, which is what I had believed.
So what happens between 2001 and then 2019 with your relationship with him?
So,
give or take 2001.
So we stopped having physicality. I mean, that doesn't mean we weren't friends. I certainly did stay sometimes in his room. I mean, friends with benefits, if you will, just not sex. So, just. And I started dating.
Okay.
And I met someone that I found
friends with benefits.
2000.
Booty calls with them kids with him. You and him was graping the kids together.
Computers. And we had an amazing relationship that ended went on until 2010, I think. And I was with Ted from that time.
Did you meet him through Mr. Epstein?
No. Well, indirectly, I suppose you could say. So, no, they never met. I was at a dinner where I met Ted, but it wasn't. I was with President Clinton.
President who?
President Clinton was my friend, not Epstein's friend. And Epstein had flown him. And there was a dinner, and Ted came to the dinner. So I guess indirectly through Mr. Epstein, because it was his plane, but I'd have been there anyway without him. Was not
Was Epstein on the plane when you guys flew?
On that trip, yes. Oh, well, yes. Yes.
So when you say the dinner was where?
In Hong Kong. Okay.
And so you had flown over with, so who was on the plane for that trip? I don't mean everybody, but you said Mr. Epstein was on the plane?
Yes.
You were on the plane?
Yes.
Who else? That you can remember? I'm not, you only know what you remember.
Was President Clinton on the plane?
Clinton. He would have had his guy, Doug Vance.
Doug Vance. Is he related to JD?
And so so how do you meet? So why do you say that's when you met him, and that you met him through Clinton?
Well, I don't think Ted would have been there had it not been it was a President Clinton dinner, and Ted came to be with President Clinton, not particularly with Mr. Epstein.
Well, why you just didn't say you met him through Clinton?
Okay, so so in the time that you're dating, that you're with him to 2009, are you still working for Mr. Epstein during that time?
Why she just didn't say I met him through Clinton?
Mr. Epstein tried very hard to keep me to working for him, because this is a complex operation. I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking just the sheer size of the projects. I'm talking the construction projects, houses, staff. It's a really significant job, and I ran all the properties, the staff in the property, the management of the properties, and all the construction. And we're talking tens of millions of dollars for the island alone. I can't remember what the budget was for the construction on any given year. It's gone, but these are very significant projects. And so that was what I did, and I managed the budgets. Well, I didn't manage the budgets, I oversaw the budget. So I would just make sure that if you said you bought an air conditioning plant, I saw an air conditioning plant, and I did call the island manager, did you receive the carrier, whatever,
When did Mr. Epstein purchase the island?
I want to say 96 or 97, something like that.
Okay, so we're gonna come back and spend more time on the money with respect to Mr. Epstein and his wealth, but just so we can finish this, so in 2009, you ended a relationship with Ted?
2009, 2010.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was 10.
Okay, so in that time period, what happens next with, as far as your relationship with Mr. Epstein?
I don't have one.
You don't have one of him, like, you don't see him, or it's just a different relationship?
I did see, I maybe saw him once or twice, maybe even 3 times. I certainly went to his house once, for sure. Maybe twice. But I was not seeing him. The only time that I was in touch with him was when the things happened, like things, I mean, in the press that affected me, or when the CBRA case was filed and there was all that rubbish that went out, because I needed information. Because I didn't know anything about what was happening, and I needed his help. I want to make it sound like, rephrase that. I don't mean his help. I meant to have answers so that I had an ability to defend myself. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not
So
talking anything.
when does that relationship change? So you're working, you talked about when the physical relationship stopped, and then you're still working for him or with him, managing his properties and serving as like a general manager. You then start your own relationship with another individual, with Ted, from 2003 till 2009 or 10. At what point in that whole period is there like more of a break where you're no longer acting as his general manager?
I wanted to have a full break when I started dating Ted, and he was clever. I suppose it would be true to say that I sort of viewed Mr. Epstein at that point as sort of family, if you will, like someone I could rely on. And I should have had more confidence in myself. I can see that now. But at the time, given everything that had happened in my life, I thought that it would, and I saw how he was with other people like Eva, who seemed to be very comfortable saying that. I thought this would be, and he always said,